Legion has a new HQ, but is it all it's cracked up to be? Plus, who's gassing the Khunds? We're going to find out this week on the Legion Clubhouse.
They were the heroes from the future. Teenagers protecting the universe from those that would sow the seeds of chaos. Each had unique powers and abilities. And though they often had their differences, they came together to save the day as the Legion of Superheroes. Now, you can be a part of their adventures and learn the history of the future in the Legion Clubhouse.
Oof.
No, that's true.
I'm oof.
I mean, so here's the thing. What is this
Yes.
red gas that they're using to poison everybody? That the Khunds are using to poison everybody. It is a gas that will kill mainly out of terror, sheer terror, unless you have the antidote, unless you're breathing. At this exact same time that this book is coming out, Saddam Hussein is gassing Kurds because he doesn't like them. He thinks they're an abomination. He thinks that if he kills them all, he can get them to submit to his will. So comic books are a reflection of society. And while we can look at the red gas and say, oh, what a novel chemical weapon that these people have cooked up again. Very good, Keith Giffen. This stuff is going on like right now. And Giffen and others, Gordon and the Bierbaums might say, oh, no, we were referencing World War I chemical warfare. That's great, except we could open up the newspaper at the time and we can see all these horrible pictures of people who have been gassed. So if you want to put a reality spin on this, and we look at comics, especially this series, through the lens of history, the gassing of the Kurds is kind of a big genocidal, horrible thing that was going on. So I'm not making light of it. I'm like, no, this is what's happening here.
Yeah, and these issues went on sale in December of 90 and January of 1991. And when was the first?
Well, so we didn't get into Gulf War I until later that year. So it would be like August of 91, I want to say, for our involvement in it. Now, certainly the gassing of the Kurds was not the thing that tipped the scale for us to invade, but it was other things. But that was one of them. And I just remember, and a good friend of the show, the person who does the announcements at the beginning of the show and the credits at the end, Jason Inman, he served in the military. He did not serve in Gulf War I. He did serve in Gulf War II, and he also had to do these things where they had to prep for gas attacks, right? So like putting on the hoods and everything so that they wouldn't get gassed. And that was a big deal during Gulf War I, right? It's like we didn't know if this bombing thing that was going on the camps, is it gas? We don't know. And it panicked a lot of people. So, yeah, it's a horrible, horrible thing. But again, I blame the Legion for making me have to talk about it.
Well, don't blame the Legion. Blame the Khunds, who
I blame them as well. I blame all of them. I blame the Khunds for being aggressive and the Legion for not being aggressive enough in this comic book.
The Legion is actually
I blame the UP for not being aggressive enough.
Yes, the Legion is more aggressive than the UP, although a good chunk of the beginning of the issue is just dealing with the state of the new headquarters on Talos and how it used to be a creepy kind of love nest. And the first takeaway from this is Kono, who is canonically like a 16-year-old girl, is a little too happy in this no-tell motel with the vibrating bed and the heart-shaped bathtubs. But also, it's funny, so I kind of allow that, I guess. But
is it though?
It is. It really is, because she's not like pervy about it. She's giggling and jumping on the bed and yelling for Furball to come and hang out with her on the vibrating bed because it's a ton of fun. I feel like they do manage to pull off that not being creepy so much as silly, which that's a tough sell. That is a very tough sell.
There's a lot of, so here's my whole problem with these two issues is that there is a war going on.
Right.
And we are getting just highlights, and it's like obvious highlights that are spread out over lots of time. Now, I'm not saying it's a
Right.
year's worth of stuff, but literally it is maybe weeks going on between some of these different incidents. And so
Right.
it feels like in the past arc, we were targeting stories to make them get to the conclusion that they needed to, and maybe that was over the course of 6 months. This one
Mhm.
feels like, here's a better analogy. The
Mhm.
first year of 5 years later felt like the first season of Andor, where everything took
Right.
place over the course of a year as we are seeing Cash and Andor get radicalized to become part of the rebellion.
Mhm.
Where we're at in this second year of the 5 year later story arc, it feels like season 2 of Andor, where it's like, oh no, we're going to tell 5 years worth of stories in 9 episodes.
And I really do think, and I don't know of the timing, but I feel like the way this story unloads, the way all of a sudden at the beginning of issue 15, we've seen talk of the Khunds taking over
Mm-hmm.
most of the galaxy, and we've seen a lot of it, but it kind of feels like a torn from the headline story to me. It feels like, the Khundians are doing this, and we didn't set it up in the first 13 or 14 issues because, all of a sudden something happened that's making this, relevant. So it feels like they are kind of compressing, as you
Yeah.
said,
And
weeks or maybe even months of stuff.
I'm wondering if part of it is um, there's not a personal connection. So
Mhm.
the last time that we had to deal with war in year 1, it's because
Mhm.
we had Cosmic Boy and we had Shrinking Violet on on opposite sides of the battle. And
Right.
these two were going to come to heads and they reconciled and everything was good. In this one, there's there's nobody on the Khunds that we sympathize with. Even the
Right.
head of the Klingons, who is letting Princess Projectra live. Even he is not sympathetic. With Cosmic Boy and Shrinking Violet, we have two characters that we've empathized with for 20, 30 years, and now we
Mhm.
have to say, oh, are we the reader going to have to choose sides? Here we don't have to choose sides, and all we see is death, anarchy, and more death.
Yeah, and that story, I feel like the point of that, I guess it's less a story and more of a subplot, but the point of that plot was the horrors of war and
Yeah,
PTSD and the effects it would
yeah.
have. This story feels more like the story of unchecked aggression. So we do see um, uh, former President Marta Allen get shot down.
And that's why the
Anyway,
CIA has preempted you.
that's probably what it was. And then we see the Khunds attack Orando, the home of Princess Projectra. We see them attack Venegar, the home of the Emerald Empress. And we hear about them kind of, coming onto other cities or other, I guess you would
Yeah,
be
planets
planets here.
or yeah. Hmm.
Pasnik, which we remember from
Oh,
the
King
War of the
John.
Dark. Yeah,
King John.
King
Why is he
John.
called
Do you
King
remember?
John? Because man, that just seems that
That's
I,
his
I
name.
have a real problem with where you have an elected president of the United Planets, and then suddenly now you have a king of the United Planets, and it's like, well, wait a minute, um, imperialism is okay now.
King John dates back to Superboy 193, the war between the nights and the days, which is the issue that first gave us Mike Grell's duo damsel costume that splits into orange and
Yeah,
purple,
yeah.
where half the planet was in the dark and half the planet was night. So King John is actually kind of an artifact of 1971, but he was the king of Pasnik. And if you're really bothered, just say his name is King. He was born king,
Like
like
what's
Larry.
what's that other king guy who's head of
King
Checkmate?
Standish.
What's
Yeah.
his name? King what?
King Standish.
Oh, King Standish. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, he's the king.
yeah.
And so, yeah, you do get some stuff, and we do see them talking about planets that we've heard of, like Pasnik and Prestor. Cracked me up because I remember Prestor. Do you remember Command Kid, who took over the Legion and threw everybody out, became the leader, and then hired Cosmic King, Lightning Lord, and Saturn Queen to be his new Legion, and then got killed by Cosmic King, Lightning Lord, and Saturn Queen?
Yeah, let's say yes. I do remember all of that in fine detail.
Yeah. Yeah, he once crashed on planet Prestor, and he was possessed by a demon, which gave him the power of command. And of course, he built a costume featuring like a really cool tunic and some stockings that he bought at Victoria's Secret. It's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
No, it's true. But all of that is not the point, because they're attacking with chemical warfare.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
No, again, it's not. It's a reflection. On the one hand, you can say, "Oh, this is in reference to World War I," but again, I think it's more of in reference of what's going on in our current time. I'm also there's also seems to be a what year did Platoon come out?
1987, I believe.
Okay, so there also seems to be a little bit of Platoon, 86, but you're close. Of a look how bad the military treats its grunts kind of commentary in this. When we go and we look at the training headquarters for upcoming Legion members with Chuck and Duo Damsel, and also a weird Martian Manhunter guy.
I don't know what that guy's deal is, but what was the Legion Academy is now the UP Militia Military Academy.
Yes.
And I'm angry about that.
Yeah, no, it seems very weird, because here you have presumably off panel, because we don't see Duo Damsel or Chuck doing this in the on panel, but they apparently have trained their sergeants to be horrible to the cadets. Give me 30 push-ups. What did I say? Shut up now. Get down. Push them. 1, 2, 3. And it's just like, wow, this is a little bit too militaristic for what you think the Legion should be or what the Legion represents.
And, 1987 is also the year of Full Metal Jacket. So having Power Boy try his Sergeant Hartman routine on the White Witch and having it go so wrong is an interesting bit of story. But then it's immediately followed by Duo Damsel going off on him and telling him, no, that's not what you do. And I'm like, but you didn't ever instill that distinction for these people. And I feel like you're right. When you said Platoon, I was like, yep, Platoon is definitely in here. Full Metal Jacket is definitely in here. This is a story that's about a weird futuristic war, but much as MASH in Korea is about Vietnam, I feel like this story is about a future war that is maybe equal parts the beginning of the Gulf conflict of 1991 and a little bit more Vietnam, because you have all of these characters going through things that feel almost too melodramatic, but also
there's from
comic book.
There's a lot of melodrama in here, especially when we go to Talak 8, where we have these two people sitting down. You have the two different sides, factions, right? So in order to
Shadow
things,
Kid and Lady Memory.
Yeah, you have them married, so to keep the two sides calm, and then it's just this really melodramatic back and forth. And she's like, "Okay, just come to bed and let's get this over with." Meanwhile, Mon-El and Shadow Lass show up out of nowhere when they're supposed to be in their chambers, their love making chambers. And I'm not sure that I want Valor to just be stepping in when I'm with my wife.
I'm really
it's really weird.
Offended. It is, and the fact that all of a sudden Valor is here also feels like maybe this is a story that's got some artifacts in it of before we had to do the Glorith retcon, because we've had this whole, Valor is this weird, mysterious figure working in the background and doing legendary feats, but then he just pops up on Valor 8 and he's on Talak 8, he's like, I'm gonna punch people now. I don't.
Meanwhile, all the cadets get shredded.
Oh, yes. We actually do get to see Nightwind get killed on panel.
Yeah.
Which is gross. And I'm just, I feel so bad.
War is certainly heck, ladies and gentlemen. Also,
it is indeed, especially if you're a third-tier character.
Yeah. Also, as mentioned in the last episode, Jonah discovers that, oh, I am in the past. No wonder I should have realized this before I rocketed myself to a planet that is in between civilizations. Womp womp.
I mean,
Yeah, and they do set that up. I think they set that up rather nicely because right at the point where he's like, oh no, I'm in the past. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, just get in your rocket ship and go back to wherever you need to go. And then he's like, too bad I crash landed and everything broke up into a million billion pieces. And it's like, okay, what's going to happen? And more importantly, that Brainiac 5 knows that Jonah is not dead, but is trapped in the past.
yes, and that is important because if Brainy knows where you are, you're probably coming back.
If only there was a time institute that could let you travel to the past.
Unfortunately, they're all dead.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I don't know if there's anything else in this issue. That's pretty much. Oh, I guess Shrinking Violet loses a leg. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
That actually is, and I feel like it's the kind of moment that, on the one hand, feels big, but we've already seen Shrinking Violet. She pretty clearly lost an eye. I think she has a robot eye under her scar. Kaz lost his powers. Loomis has lost an arm. It feels like, we talked about the melodrama. It feels like it might be a little over the top, and it feels like maybe we're piling a little too much on Shrinking Violet. Although it may just be to set her up as the field leader, the military fighty lady who's going to go out and punch people to death, even though she's 3 inches tall.
It seems, and I don't know when, maybe it is here in the 5 year later, because even in the next incarnation of the Legion, she seems to be the punching bag for a lot of trauma, right? So it's like, hey, let's blow off her leg. Let's make her question her sexual identity. Let's make her have to kill a bunch of her friends. Let's turn her evil. All these things that just pile up and pile up and pile up until you're just like, ugh, why does she have to be the punching bag for all this?
Yeah. This issue also gives us the debut of Brandon Peterson, I think, as Legion artist. And
for the whole issue,
on the one hand,
or just one part,
back and forth.
Oh, okay.
It opens with all Giffen, and then when things start transitioning, like all of the stuff that happens in space and at the military academy, that's Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon will take over as Legion penciler after Keith gives up the gig in a few issues.
Okay.
Spoilers, I guess, but I don't know how to feel about it because Brandon has this very specific, this angular kind of look that is exactly the opposite of the kind of the blocky, everybody has a square jaw thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It does get a little confusing, especially when you get to the back and forth, and you're going to be seeing issues where a character's drawn by GIF and then drawn by Brandon Peterson. And if we don't have like the color coding or the ponytail or the big orange antenna, there are times when it's an odd sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's not a good position that you don't care for.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a juxtaposition where the art styles are just divergent enough to make it creepy. But I will say this, I do like Brandon's work. And in a few issues, there's going to be some stuff that you go, oh man, this is the perfect guy to deal with it. He's really, really good at this. So
I have a question though, before we leave this issue. On page 6, there's a guy with glasses that's getting blowed up real good. Is that supposed to be somebody? Because in issue 16, there is a woman who is also getting blowed up real good, who also has a lot of detail for her face for being a nobody NPC. And so I didn't know if this is supposed to be like, is this supposed to be Tom Bierbaum or Mary Bierbaum in the next issue? Or is this supposed to be some fan that the Bierbaums hate or something like that?
For all the world to me, it looks like Paul Levitz. But
I mean, it could be.
Also, I wonder, do you remember the one Legion fan? The one Legion fan who had the glasses. What was his name?
I don't remember. I know who you're talking about.
Like, hi. Yeah, well, you remember the guy.
Yeah, I remember the guy. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it could be him. I feel like, just based on looking at the head and looking at pictures of Paul Levitz from the same time, it could be Levitz, or it could just be random. Hey, we drew in. This is my Uncle Morty.
Yeah.
He sells dishwashers.
Well, maybe one
he's
of our
kind
listeners knows. Dear listener, if you're listening right now, head over to the Major Spoilers Discord server, join it for free, hop into the Legion Clubhouse channel. There's always some fascinating, interesting conversation that's going on. And if you know who the people are in issues 15 and 16 who are getting blowed up real good and they're rendered in high detail, please let us know, because obviously we don't.
If you enjoy the show, we would appreciate your support. You can find out more and become a Legion Clubhouse member at patreon.com/majorspoilers.
Sure enough, in issue 16, Matthew, by the time you get onto the first page, there's that other woman who's just like,
why did I too?
And again, this is where I'm like, there's a bunch of weird jumpiness, because in the previous issue, Brainiac 5, fine. This issue, Brainiac 5 has no eyeball, and Laurel Kent is half dead, and other bad things have happened to our heroes.
Remember how I said sometimes you'll have these back and forths between Giffen and Brandon Peterson, and you'll be like, oh, I don't like that. And you mocked me. But I don't know who.
No, I didn't mock you. I just said you didn't like how they flip flop back and forth.
I don't know who the lady on that first page is, but she looks like. Do you remember when Bugs Bunny fought that wrestler who was a parody of Gorgeous George?
Oh yeah.
That's what she looks like.
Wow, that's not very nice.
Well, I mean, is it? I said gorgeous.
I feel like this issue, especially when we get onto the actual attack of the UP military training base on whatever it is, Palak or wherever it is. Oh, no one would ever go there. They don't have an atmosphere. Yeah, but they have the materials that the Khunds need to power their ships, and they're going to the place that has the least resistance. Makes perfect sense. But the minute that we're down on Ice Planet, does that not feel like the opening sequence to Empire Strikes Back? I know we are several years after that movie has come out. In fact, the first trilogy has concluded. But this whole first reading just feels ripped from George Lucas's mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is definitely Hoth. And, given that it's a frozen planet, they probably should have called it cold. But it's also, I feel like that's legit. In some ways, I would rather have the occasional Star Wars or Star Trek echo in a Legion story, just to remind us that it is meant to be science fiction in addition to superhero-y stuff, because this issue and last issue kind of throw us into a big full-scale conflict. And
without warning.
Yeah, we've barely met, and maybe that's the point, but we've barely met Kent Shakespeare. He spends both issues just in the field fighting.
Yeah,
all out fighting as Superboy. I mean, as Impulse. But
and he hasn't been given his name yet, I don't think, as Impulse. He's just, they kept referring to him as Kent, but yes, he is Impulse. I think the other thing that's shocking, and the reason why you need to be a longtime Legion fan, is because we get to see the return of Tyrock, out of nowhere. It's like, okay, but here's the problem with it, right? There have historically been few black people in the Legion of Superheroes. We have two of them for sure, Tyrock and Invisible Kid 2. That's fine. But they're both on the same resistance team they're going to say
working together.
Yes, in where do they say that they're at? They're in a jungle-ish environment. And it's just like,
I want to say they're in Africa
Earth.
Because
yeah,
Jacques is from the Ivory Coast. He's Ivorian, and I honestly think that they're in Africa. And
they do say they are in the heart of the African jungle.
Right. So what happened was, off panel, in between issues, the Khunds called back Tyrock's home city of Brigadoon, or whatever it's called. And they brought it back into this dimension, and then they just killed everybody. The only survivor is Tyrock. And then, well, and it gets worse because Tyrock does team up, as you mentioned, with the only other Black Legionnaire to date. And they team up with the Legion of Substitute Heroes. So what it looks like at this point is we've brought back the two highest profile people of color in Legion history. And they're now, well, I guess, okay, the second and third highest profile people of color in Legion history. And they're now part of the joke team, because the last time we saw the subs, they were a joke team. I remember that being kind of an oof. That made my teeth itch in 1991. Thankfully,
Oh, if you want to go even further and really start to say, what are they really saying? You've got Invisible Kid 2 and Infectious Lass as a couple.
Right.
Which is, fine. Hey, love who you love.
She's a lovely woman. She's a beautiful shade of, I'm going to say aqua. She looks red to me.
Well, I will tell you something off air that makes it a little problematic.
Okay.
So there's that. But then, while we get to see the team up of Invisible Kid 2 and Tyrock and the Substitute Heroes, on the flip side, we get to see the team up of Universo and Grimm, which is that smiley face thing. And then the Dark Circle are all teaming up together for their ultimate plan, which I thought was kind of nice to bring all of those together. Maybe not Grimm, but definitely seeing the return of the Dark Circle was kind of interesting.
Grimm is just another one of those disgusting body horror Giffen heroes that's just a slavering mouthful of teeth. But Universo has allied with Invisible Kid and the subs, and also is secretly playing against the Dark Circle. And it's a uniquely Universo place to be, because I won't say he's actually on the right side, because he's Universo and he's always, the Quisling, he's always the provocateur.
Yeah.
But it's interesting for the Legion, for the heroes, to be in a place where not only is Universo a natural ally, Universo is actually maybe the most powerful person that they can work with. And that's redonkulous to me. I really enjoy that silly moment of turnaround is fair play. We're adults now. We're grown-ups. We're not 18-year-old lads punching each other. And sometimes you do have to work with an obnoxious jerk. Sometimes you do have to set things aside, and you have to ally with somebody who is counter to, everything you believe in. Sometimes it's just like, hey, we have this common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And even though you have pointy ears and a monocle, which is like two different things that prove that you're pure evil from a distance, you are now our strongest ally. And it's fun, but it's also, I don't know. It's off-putting.
Question.
It's almost, yes, sir.
Is the reveal of the Demon Mother as Gloranthe, is that a surprise, or is that just a bump, womp, womp, womp?
I don't know that it's meant to be surprising, but I do like it. And I feel like dramatically it helps make sense of, remember, Brainiac 5 in this issue realizes that the red mist is not a new weapon.
Yeah.
It's an ancient chemical weapon from a war 300 years ago.
Years prior.
That shouldn't exist anymore. But Gloranthe travels in time, and the Demon Mother, blah, blah, blah. So having Gloranthe, who wants to be, the power monger, wants to be the chess master, taking over the Khundian Empire, which is, as we've seen, the biggest military force, probably the biggest alliance in UP space. That's kind of cool. That's like, oh my gosh, the Time Trapper really is dangerous. I like that up to a point. This is the thing, and I'm trying really hard to separate that moment, which does work and is strong, from the way that it continues and continues and continues to play out over the next 50 issues of the book. So initially,
I
just
don't.
sitting at it
I
right
mean,
there. I'm
I've
like,
said
yeah,
before, I don't mind the idea of having a single big bad, the
mhm,
Joker, Lex Luthor, being a constant pain in the butt for your heroes. But for this
mhm,
big reveal that they do in the issue, it's just felt like we've had 3 or 4 issues now of the villain twirling her mustache, and then suddenly we
mhm.
go to the page where it's revealed that she's the villain, and it's like I don't know if that works as well as people think that it works.
Dramatically, I feel like it gives Glorith a power base equal to that of Mordru, who we have
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
controls a big chunk of the galaxy. And it is kind of a nice moment to understand how did the Khunds go from these resistance is futile, all is lost people who constantly lose, to being this dominant force in the galaxy. And the answer becomes literally the dominatrix took over. And that I like. But also, Glorith is hard to love in any context because Glorith is meant to be. She was built kind of as that continuity implant. She's the thumb in the dike, if you will, to hold back the flood of what would happen because the time trapper no longer exists. Time trapper's gone, so we put in Glorith. Had this been a story where we reveal that the time trapper was manipulating the Khunds, it would have been a big shocking dun dun dun. But I think it also would have been less satisfying because it doesn't feel like a time trapper thing to do. So this kind of establishes what Glorith is capable of as the evil, manipulative, mustache twirler. She doesn't literally have a mustache, by the way.
I
She's
mean, I've
a
drawn
long.
a mustache on her in every panel of my print
I
copies.
You can do whatever you like with your own print copies.
Exactly.
I myself have taken every appearance of what's his face,
So
I have the face, and I've drawn Matter Eater Lad over Atmos,
there you go.
and it's fine. Yeah.
I think for me, I don't hate either of these 2 issues. I think that there were some interesting things that happen, especially when we look at Violet's refusal to heal, grow a new leg.
Mhm.
I think it's
Right.
interesting that we see some of the behind the scenes undercover espionage between Chameleon Boy and Princess Projectra. No,
Shrinking
yeah,
Violet,
Laurel
Chameleon
Gant.
Boy, and
It's
Laurel.
Laurel Gant
Yeah.
is behind it. I think some of that is fascinating, but I think just the abruptness of everything happening, it's coming at you so fast that the story
Mhm.
just seems jerky and misplaced. So I think that's my
Mhm.
biggest disappointment from the storytelling. Yes, there are some good moments in here. Yes, there are some interesting panels in here that I like, but overall, I just think that these 2 issues come off as somewhat mediocre.
And I think part of that is because the first 12 issues of this book were kind of, I don't want to say unique, but they were definitely something that doesn't happen all the time. In modern parlance, taking an actual war, like soldiers and tanks and, frap guns and actual war with people going into battle, people getting killed, the expectation that you're going to lose people. That part was really I don't want to say it wasn't seen in comics. It wasn't seen in superhero comics. Like Sergeant Rock had been doing that for 40 years at this point, but marrying that war plot line to a Legion story felt really fresh in 1991, and I was
Yeah.
there for but also in retrospect, 40 years down the line, or 35 years, God, we're old. 35 years down the line, it's something we've seen many, many times. And I feel like we may have seen it done better. And you are absolutely right. With both of these issues, it feels like they've compressed a lot of things into here, which once again, I maintain and I will argue is probably real world events, something
Mhm.
going on pushing that. And I do believe it's a desert storm or something that
Yeah.
led up to the desert storm,
Yeah.
putting that on everybody's mind. And it works, question mark, but it also, yeah, it's not a book that has aged well. Neither of these issues have aged well. That said, I think they're both above average. I would go, if we were meatloafing, I'd go 3.5 at least. These are strong issues. And I do remember reading them back in the day and thinking, oh my God, they're using chemical warfare. These guys are totally evil, you guys.
Yeah, that's how you know they're evil, is by.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, what did you think? Head over to our Discord server and share your thoughts. We love to read them so much, and we appreciate everybody who's over there sharing the love of the Legion of Superheroes. Next time, will this Khund War end, or will it continue to drag on? We will find out next time on the Legion Clubhouse.
The Legion Clubhouse is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by Steven Schleicher. Your hosts were Matthew Peterson and Steven Schleicher. You can follow Matthew at Mighty King Cobra and Steven at Major Spoilers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Legion Clubhouse. If you have questions or comments, send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. I'm Jason Inman. Until next time, eat it, Grandpa.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.